We're good. So, introductions times. You ready?
I'm ready.
Perfect. How's it going, everyone? Today I have the one and only brain wizard, Andrew Carlson. Sorry, I had to stutter there. I'm going to restart. It is Carlson, right?
Yes, it is.
Perfect. Okay. Blah and scene. How's it going, everyone? I have the one and only brain wizard, Andrew Carlson, with me today. He is a certified cellular health and blood work specialist. Basically, he can tell you why you feel bad and what he can do to help you feel better. And he's also been a good friend of mine. I met him the first time a couple years ago in the FitPro Collective. So without further ado, how you doing, Andrew?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. How are you?
I'm doing great. I've been looking forward to this for a while. We've had a couple unfortunate circumstances preventing us from meeting up. So this was supposed to be a couple weeks ago. How's your tooth doing, by the way?
Oh, my tooth's great.
Good,
Never
good.
felt better.
Love to hear it. Love to hear it. Well, first things first, I always like to hear a little bit of your origin story. So, what did you do before? What made you decide to become an entrepreneur? Just give us a little bit of your backstory if you don't mind.
Definitely. Right out of high school, I knew I didn't want to go be like a traditional job and go to college. So I ended up working in the film industry, moved to New Orleans, literally walked onto a set one day and said, I'm ready to work. And they said, all right, let's put you to work. And I was like, oh, it's that easy. And then after working in the industry for a few years, I went from just being a regular production assistant, working the grunt work, all the way up to becoming a production management, managing multi-million dollar budgets. And I kind of learned the art of networking through my time in the industry. Unfortunately, during that time, I ended up just passing out on a commercial set one day in the production office. And I woke up in the hospital and they said, your heart rate spiked really fast. And essentially, we need to do a few things and run a few tests. Apparently, I had genetic issues that caused me to my heart rhythm went from 60 beats a minute all the way up to 250 beats a minute. So they said, Andrew, you need to find a different lifestyle, a different job. So I went into the restaurant industry. And when I was in the restaurant industry, I worked my way up into becoming a executive in a restaurant, and we expanded globally with that restaurant, and I loved it. And I actually decided to become an entrepreneur because I saw how amazing it was to help restaurants grow and expand. So then from that experience, I spun off and opened up my own mystery shopping company and my own restaurant coaching company.
That's awesome. That's really cool. I actually didn't
Yeah.
even know about the restaurant coaching company. So,
Absolutely.
would you mind diving a little bit more on the passing out on set? Like that's terrifying. Did you just like were you running to get coffee too fast or was it an intense role? Like what happened?
No, actually, I was simply just making copies, and then I was walking from one office to the next. And then I woke up and I was like, "What happened?" And they're like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Apparently not." I had no recollection of any of that. Unfortunately, that 3 years within working in the restaurant industry, I was 22 years old when I went back into the restaurant industry, and I ended up having to get 10 different heart surgeries. So it was really I was grateful that I had the job to be able to go in and out of surgeries. But for 8 of those surgeries, I couldn't use anesthesia because it was causing issues with the heart and them trying to use the adrenaline to speed it up properly. Because there's a little hole that's in my ventricle system that
Mhm.
the electrical currents get caught up into that. So they needed to close that, but they could never find it when we had surgery. So they said, all right, we're going to strap you down, but you can't have anesthesia. So that's kind of where I fell into hypnosis and the mindset stuff that I do because I had to learn how to use natural ways to put myself into a relaxed state, basically, which was like a hypnotic anesthesia.
I well, I knew you were Doctor Strange, but I had no idea that you got that skill because you had to have open heart surgery without anesthesia. That's crazy. You need a
Hmm.
if you haven't wrote a book about that, I expect a book by like next year about this
I'm
story
working on
because
it.
that is awesome. So you knew you had to do this stuff without anesthesia. What path did you take whenever you decided, hey, I need to figure out something to slow this heart rate down? I need to figure out hypnosis. Did you like take classes or how did you learn that stuff?
Yeah, I actually became certified as a hypnotherapist because I was like, all right, I need to figure something out. And I was doing some research on Google, and it just ended up being that I fell into this thing called neuro linguistic programming. And part of that was hypnosis and becoming a clinical hypnotherapist. So I kind of just fell down that rabbit hole, which then I learned that I could integrate the stuff that I was using with that into restaurant training and development. So that's how I became a restaurant executive. And then I used what that knowledge that I learned from there, created my own company. I was able to do that. And then I created a book based around making sure that you can increase your sales in restaurants through customer service. That became a bestseller on it.
You're back.
I, I didn't disappear.
I don't know what just happened, but I'm happy you're back. Uh, well, last thing we heard was that you were a bestseller on Amazon for how to increase revenue at a restaurant.
Mhm.
That's awesome. What's the name of that book?
Customer service is the bottom line.
That is so for one, I'm gonna link that below, so you should go check out that book, 100%, so that's awesome. Uh, and how did running restaurants and going in and like, I imagine, like, a bar rescue is what I'm imagining right now, but, if explain a little bit on that, like, did you fly out and, like, go to the restaurant and help them out, or how did this work?
Yeah, so the majority of that was all just virtual. There were some times when somebody would pay more for a consult where they would fly me out. I'd go in, become the mystery shopper, check out the operations, check out what was going on behind the scenes, have interviews with the employees, and then I would actually spend 2 to 4 weeks there on location helping retrain all of their staff and making sure that all of the training materials were compliant and basically up to date with their new core values and what they're wanting to establish with their restaurant.
So it really was just bar rescue restaurant style, or I guess that would be
100%.
Gordon Ramsay's. You should have, hired him to come and film you. That's awesome. Did, so what kinda sparked this path? Like, what helped you, develop these entrepreneurial skills the most? Like, what would you say was the most important thing to start improving yourself?
The first thing that I ever did was start diving into personal development.
Mhm,
The second thing that I did was get into the film industry because I learned networking. And then I utilized that skill to kind of surround myself around the people that I want to. So I started joining entrepreneurial groups like Apex and the Fit Pro Collective to kind of surround myself around people who were doing better than me, and I kind of felt like the dumbest person in the room, and I love being the dumbest person in the room
mhm.
because that's where I get to grow and learn and grow personally myself, so that's kind of what I have done. That's been the best thing for me entrepreneurial wise.
That's I couldn't agree more. Like, if I'm ever in a situation where I feel like I'm the one with all the ideas, I don't wanna be there anymore. Like, I like feeling dumb. I don't feel like I'm going anywhere if I don't.
Exactly.
So you went from owning your own restaurant, bar rescue style business, writing a book, being absolute killing it, and then decided to switch gears and start in the fitness industry. What kind of made that shift?
Yeah. So at 26 years old, I have a defibrillator,
Hmm.
and because of all the different heart surgeries that I had to have because of my defibrillator malfunctioned a lot. So it's supposed to shock you once and it's done. Mine didn't. Mine shocked me about 50 to 70 times, which would then put me into surgery and they'd have to correct my heart rhythm again. So by the time I was 26 years old, I said, enough is enough. Let's turn it off. And unfortunately, the night nurse at that time who was administering my heart arrhythmia medication overdosed me on that medication. So I ended up going through basically looking like I had Parkinson's disease. I had such a toxic level of medication in my body where I almost stroked out and died. I lost all motor function. I couldn't talk for like 12 hours. It was really terrifying. And then after that, I had 6 years where I didn't know what was going on. I had chronic illnesses, I had health issues off the wazoo, but I didn't know what was happening. And I kind of just fell into around 30 years old functional nutrition. I was like, something, if I can do hypnosis naturally to administer anesthesia, then what's going on from a cellular level in my body that's causing the dysfunction? So I kind of fell into functional nutrition, and that's where I studied epigenetics and just the cells and how the cells express everything and create those proteins. And I realized that at the core foundation, it's my cells that were ill and sick and needed to be cleaned up. Because if cells are constantly multiplying and they're unhealthy, you're going to multiply unhealthy cells. So, how do you actually clean up the cell at that cellular level? And I
Power
found,
washer?
right? But I ended up finding this process or this protocol that you could reactivate your cells. And it ended up taking a 6 month process, and it was a nutrition process, and it was like a supplement protocol. And it was very regimented and very strict. But I did this, and in 6 months, I was able to get my health back. I lost 75 pounds. All my chronic illnesses just cleared itself up. And I was like, oh my gosh, people need to know about this, and people really need to understand what's happening with your body at that cellular level. And that's kind of what sparked. I got certified as a functional nutritionist. I got certified as a blood work specialist so I could help people decipher what their blood work is saying. And I created this business with my business partner, and we've been running ever since for the last year.
That is absolutely awesome. So, what's the name of this business?
Cellular health and wellness.
I like it, straight to the point. So,
Mhm.
you said you have a partner. What's his role in this?
She is the one that kind of
Sorry,
introduced me into it.
gotcha.
It's funny because she actually went through the same process of like something's happening at that cellular level. She started researching things and on Facebook, came across, as ads do, they kind of just spy on you.
Mhm.
And and she came across this cellular detox is what it's called. Um, and we didn't like the word detox, so we just renamed it cellular reactivation because that's exactly what you're doing. You're reactivating the cells and making sure you're stripping them of the toxicity that's being held inside of those cells and making sure that when they do duplicate, they're actually duplicating healthy cells. So she pulled me into it and said, hey, I want help with my marketing. And then when I went through the process and I was just telling everyone about it, she's like, we should become business partners. Like, this is more than just marketing.
That is I love that because that's 100% leading from the front. You went out there,
Yeah,
you showed your value, and they're like, "I can't do this without you now. I need you."
mhm,
That's a good representation
exactly.
of you, honestly, because every time I see you, you're doing something phenomenal.
Thank you.
Speaking of which, you just, did something else pretty phenomenal that I heard about through the grapevine. Would you mind telling me a little bit more about what you're doing now on the side of just running that business?
Yeah, absolutely. So, because of the success of our cellular health and wellness practice, which is all virtual, there was an email that I came across from people that I was following, and they were looking for a client success manager. And I kind of emailed them and I was like, listen, I'm not looking for a job, but I'd love to be able to help you out with your clients because they help their functional practitioners go from having a brick and mortar to a virtual practice and making sure that they can charge doctor money for the results that they're getting because most functional practitioners, unfortunately, we don't charge enough. And that's just the fact of the matter is. So we teach them how to package it up and show them exactly what we want to be able to do because most people when it comes to business they say well we need to verify that this product is going to sell except when it comes to health you don't need to verify that people want to get healthy and want to feel well they don't want to live in dysfunction and disease so we ended up having a conversation, and then they decided to bring me on as the one that's in charge of their clients. And that's going to help them guide them throughout the process and grow their business and their virtual practice. And it's been super fun and super rewarding as well to not only provide the knowledge that I had from building my own virtual practice, but to be able to help other health practitioners really help people heal and finally get off the hamster wheel of the medical system.
I bet that seeing as you've gone through it personally and you know what this is like, I couldn't imagine a more rewarding, like, outcome because not only are you, on one end, helping people with similar situations you've had, but on the other hand, making sure that people can run their business the proper way, which is absolutely awesome. And how long have you been doing that for now?
I've been doing this for the last 2 months now.
Awesome. Enjoying it then?
Oh, absolutely. Every day I wake up at like 3:30 in the morning because I'm like, I'm gonna go work out because I'm just so excited and I have so much energy. By the end of the day, like 9 p.m., I'm like, all right, I need to force myself to sleep because sleep is important.
Yeah, your cell's like that too, from what I heard. Not really being the
Exactly.
expert on it. And something else that, I've learned is you're the go-to guy for nutrition too. So you know things on the cellular level, but you're also like every time someone in the FitPro Collective has a nutrition question, they're always running to you, including myself. So I was just kind of curious. I know a lot of my clientele, they're currently trying to lose some fat and stuff along those lines. So from an expert like yourself, what would you suggest three foods they avoid if they're trying to lose some fat?
Absolutely. I love this question because there are definitely multiple different answers I could go around. But when it comes to fat loss, the three things that you want to avoid are going to be prepackaged foods. Now, it's super easy to overeat when it comes to high calorie prepackaged foods. We don't always know what's in them. And because there's a lot of chemicals that are in there, it hinders your ability to actually lose the weight. How do I know this? Because I work with this with my clients every single day. And on top of that, there are sugars that are hidden inside of them that you may not be aware of that are actually disrupting your hormones that is preventing you from losing weight. The second one that I want to talk about are sugary beverages. We hear this all the time, but consuming your calories in the beverage form is always going to hinder your success when it comes to fat loss. And then the third thing is inflammatory foods. Now, when I say inflammatory foods, it's different for every single individual, but most time people are experiencing gut issues because of gluten, dairy, refined sugars, and things like nightshades. So, a lot of people don't actually know this, but things like eggplants and tomatoes can actually be toxic for them and hinder their ability to lose weight because it's causing distress in the gut system. And when the gut is distressed, your body can't actually go back into a state where it's calm enough to allow the fat loss process to happen. It's stuck in that fight or flight mode. So, when it's stuck in fight or flight mode, its only focus is on survival. So when we're able to really take a step back and focus in on that whole foods, like strong, organic, grass fed protein, vegetables, and fruit, that's really going to help you hyperdrive your fat loss in the long run.
That's I actually didn't even know about the nightshades. So that's eggplants. What else is that?
Things like eggplants, tomatoes, and a few other like legumes and stuff as well can actually hinder fat loss because of that.
I had no idea about that. That's really awesome information. Is that something that happens to the general population? Or is there a way to test if these things bother you, or is it just generally how you feel?
So it's different. There's different rules, like schools of thought with this one. I always just say, look at your blood work. There are a couple different markers within your blood work that cause or you can see where you have leaky gut indicators. The other thing is, which super simple, is if you just go get your food sensitivity testing done, you're going to be able to see which foods you're sensitive to, and those sensitive foods cause the GI or that gut reaction and triggers that fight or flight response. So then I would just avoid the things that make you sensitive.
Gotcha. Okay. And oddly enough, I think I know someone who knows how to look at that blood work and tell you what you need to do. So, if that someone happened to be on the call with me, how would someone reach out to you and get some help?
Absolutely. All they have to do is go to getlimitlesssuccess.com and you can literally book a call right there.
Awesome. Well, there you go. If you need any help or you're just looking to get back in shape, my man here can definitely help you out. He's one of the smartest people I ever met and one of the kindest as well. So please reach out to him. And thank you all for watching so much. Have a great one. Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right. You're welcome. Thank you. That was awesome.
Hopefully I think we covered all the points. I feel like it went pretty well.
It did go really well.
Perfect. Except for I only reason I wanted to talk more. Like you have a far more interesting like fascinating story than I've heard in a very long time. Like I want to hear a lot more.
Thank you.
So I would love to do this again with you sometime. The only reason I cut it short was because I keep getting frame drop warnings, and I don't want it
Oh,
to cut out
interesting.
us. Um, so I'm worried next time. I'm actually about to